I've tried to lead an honorable life and to do my best with whatever task I tackled. My grandfather came to Glendale in 1911 from England, where he had lived for the past 20 years or so. And he brought with him 5 of his children. He brought a grand piano, a billiard table, a lot of furniture. He was told that you couldn't find a lot of these things in Glendale or Southern California. He settled in an area called Tropico, which was largely agricultural and was incorporated into the town of Glendale several years after he arrived. He built a big house, lovely house, a lot of bedrooms with a tennis court adjoining it. And unfortunately, it burned down in 1927 when the family were away on vacation. And he bought a new house in an area called Rossboyne in Glendale, where he moved with his family. He was from Armenia. He had gone to Euphrates College in Harpert. He spoke good English, and he got in trouble with the Ottoman authorities because he had written some poetry that had forbidden words like freedom and liberty and so forth. And the family shipped him off to Manchester, England, which was the center of the cotton goods industry. And his family had been distributor of British cotton goods in the Ottoman areas, and they had lots of connections there. So he moved to England. He became a British subject, actually, in 1909, I think it was, prior to coming to California. My father was, I think I'm not exaggerating, I think it's fair to say that he was the leader of the Armenian community in Southern California. He had one foot in the local business scene and the other foot in Armenian affairs. He and my mother were founders, along with 1 or 2 other people, of an organization called the Armenian Allied Arts Association that fostered the development of Armenian younger people in painting and music and one thing another. He was also a founder of a home for elderly Armenian people in the San Fernando Valley. I visited it out there at one point, and there was a plaque on the wall that listed the 3 or 4 organizing founders of that organization. My father's name was among them. So he was very active in all these affairs, and people came to his office. He had lived in West Virginia before then and went to Los Angeles to a Shriners convention. He had become a Shriner in West Virginia, and he met my grandfather and his daughter, Elisa. He fell in love with the Los Angeles area and with Elisa, and pulled up stakes in West Virginia and moved to the Southern California area. Got married a year or so after he arrived to Elisa Jamgochin, my grandfather's oldest child. And they lived in rented houses at first, and then he bought a very nice house in Glendale and near the Hoover High School group of schools. We'd walk to school from there. It was a happy childhood, happy household, and I remember it fondly. The remarkable thing I think about the Armenian people is that they have survived for so long in times of adversity as well as in good times. They have been innovators from early on, making wine, making leather shoes, doing a lot of things. And despite the tragic elements of Armenian history, particularly the terrible periods in 1915, they have managed to continue this long history of contribution to culture. The Armenian churches, I visited Armenia in 2006, including historic Armenia as well as the Republic of Armenia. And there's nothing more beautiful than those churches, and they are precursors of the Gothic churches, and particularly the one at Akhramar, which everybody wants to see, in the middle of the lake. This lovely church right there. It's something to see, and the trip I made in 2006 included my daughter Sarah, who was the executive secretary for 7 years of the NASR, the National Association of Armenian Research in Boston, and my son Adi, who is the editor-in-chief of the Harvard Business Review. They came on that trip, and it was a great experience. It was sad to see to go to Harpert, where my father came from, and there's nothing much left anymore. There are one or two sort of little antique shopkeepers who have a few Armenian elements from the old days, but there isn't much of anything anymore. But you're on high ground looking down at this beautiful valley below, and it was a very spectacular place, I think, to live. It must have been. I was in the Navy in World War II, in combat in the Pacific area against the Japanese. We were in the Battle of Leyte Gulf, which was the largest naval engagement of the war, and later our ship was struck by two suicide Japanese kamikaze, so-called pilots. But we controlled the fires and were able to save the ship. We couldn't, quote, see because our radars and navigational equipment had been knocked out, but the other ships guided on us, and we managed to operate for several more weeks, and then were sent home to San Diego, where the ship was repaired. It took a month or more to fix it, and we went back into the war again as it progressed toward its final conclusion. And so I spent 8 years in the Pentagon, first as an assistant secretary of the Army, later on as an assistant secretary of Defense, and in the final 2 years as secretary of the Navy. I was honored some time ago when the then Navy Secretary, Ray Mabus by name, invited me to lunch. We talked about this and that, and as the lunch was coming to an end, he said, "Oh, by the way, I'm going to name a ship after you." I said, "What?" And he did. It was a guided missile destroyer, USS Paul Ignatius. It's now headquartered in Rota, Spain, in the Mediterranean, part of the Sixth Fleet there. And I've been greatly honored to have that ship named for me. My wife was, who died 4 years ago, was the sponsor, broke the champagne bottle over the ship when it was first christened, and I visited it on a number of occasions. So that was an unexpected honor, and I'm delighted that this ship is named. It happens that my grandson decided to become a naval officer, and he is on a sister ship. My ship was number 117. He's on one called number 114, stationed in Japan, part of the Asiatic U.S. fleet. So that's a kind of nice personal connection across the generations. I had arranged a visit to the Pentagon for him, and he felt patriotic walking through, seeing all these pictures, including my own portrait outside the Navy Secretary's office. And I think he kind of got interested in that. He had been working at the Atlantic Council as a young research assistant, and he had a good reputation there. But after this Pentagon visit, he changed quite a lot and decided that he wanted to become a naval officer. I hope that a lot of young men and women of Armenian heritage will elect to enter public service. It's important to do that. I think we need capable people, and I believe that one of the strengths of people of Armenian heritage is their intellectual abilities. They're really quite smart people, and they have contributed, as I said earlier, to cultural achievements in the past and are continuing to do so today. I had the great privilege, because of my parents, to meet a lot of outstanding Armenian people: William Saroyan, the writer, Ruben Mamoulian, the movie director, and others. And that this continues to this day with Armenians fulfilling important roles in business and in the arts. And so this ancient people has got the stamina and wherewithal to continue their long and distinguished history.